General Lee tried to turn the tide of the war with an invasion of the North by attacking Pennsylvania, but his troops were eventually crushed like goobers.
So today I'm reacting to the U.S. Civil War by Mitsi Studio, and if this is your first time watching one of their videos, please understand that they're kind of like Family Guy or South Park. They offend everyone, that way nobody's offended. Let's get to it.
Today we're diving into the biggest family feud in American history, the Civil War, a drama filled with slavery, heroes, and battles, with Fort Sumter being the spark that lit the powder keg. The South wanted to split, Lincoln said, "No way, Jose," and thus began 4 years of fighting that literally tore the country apart, but ultimately set it on a new path toward freedom and equality. This is the American Civil War in a nutshell, with bombs, ideals, and a whole lot of chaos. In 1861, the United States decided that a simple family drama was too boring and went for a full breakup. Tensions over slavery were already sky high, especially since the South had a business model that practically ran on free labor. Just like modern sports brands and phone manufacturers, you know, that sort of thing. But the North had been eyeing the South for a while, and something had to change. Abraham Lincoln took office and voiced the radical idea that people maybe shouldn't live in slavery.
Lincoln was not an abolitionist, he was a gradualist, meaning that he wasn't in a hurry for it to go away.
This was received in the South as if someone had just taken away their lollipop. South Carolina kicked off the Secession and declared, "You know what? Fuck y'all, we're out." Other southern states thought, "Get bent, y'all. Piss off, y'all. Y'all can shove it. Drop dead, y'all. Y'all kiss my big old southern ass. Y'all can take your shit and go. Go to hell, y'all. Y'all go piss up a rope. Eat a bag of dicks, y'all, and screw you guys, y'all." And join the new Confederate States of America, with Jefferson Davis as their president. Then came Fort Sumter in April 1861. The Confederacy decided to throw the first punch by firing on the Union fort in Charleston, officially starting the war. The North, the Union, and the South, the Confederacy, were now officially in conflict. Both sides built large armies to prove their point. The North had more people, more railroads, and more factories, while the South relied more heavily on courage and some brilliant generals like Robert E. Lee. Lee, who had originally wanted to fight for the Union but felt compelled to defend his home state of Virginia. He opposed slavery from a philosophical perspective, whatever that is, yet he supported its legality and held hundreds of slaves.
If you go to the American Civil War Museum website, I think it's a .org, they can give you lots of information on his stance on slavery.
Meanwhile, the Northern economy was proving its industrial might. The South was mostly dependent on agriculture and struggled to acquire war supplies, increasing their logistical pressure and reliance on overseas trade with countries like Great Britain. The first major battle took place at Bull Run. The Union had an unpleasant surprise here. Their soldiers thought the Southern Army would be easy to defeat, but they were quickly beaten themselves. This battle was a wake-up call for the Union, who realized that the war would be much harder than they had thought. There followed many bloody battles, such as Shiloh and Antietam. The Battle of Antietam in 1862, the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, showed the determination of both sides to keep fighting.
If you've never seen the Civil War movie Glory with Matthew Broderick, please go watch it. The opening scene is actually of the Battle of Antietam. The losses of Antietam were about 23,000 in a single day. The battle is significant because it actually marked the end of General Lee's Maryland campaign, which was his first attempt to invade the North. The second attempt was Gettysburg.
Even if it meant extreme sacrifices. Winning Antietam gave Lincoln the chance to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared all enslaved people in the southern states free.
On paper, they were free, but it did not actually free any slaves, though.
This made the war for the Union not just a fight for unity, but also a fight for moral justice, the first wokies, as you will. At the same time, it discouraged European countries like Great Britain from supporting the Confederacy, giving the Union a significant strategic advantage. Another important factor was control of the Mississippi River. the Union launched an Anaconda Plan. No, I hear what you're thinking, but that wasn't it. It was a plan to surround and exhaust the South by cock-blocking. Cutting off their supply of weapons and goods. By capturing control of the Mississippi, the Union split the South in two, making it harder for southern states west of the river to connect with the eastern forces. In 1863, General Grant led the siege of Vicksburg, giving the Union complete control of the Mississippi. This was a massive blow in the nutsack to the South, and left them both economically and strategically castrated. The Battle of Gettysburg in 1863 became one of the war's most crucial battles. General Lee tried to turn the tide of the war with an invasion of the North by attacking Pennsylvania, but his troops were eventually crushed like goobers.
Crushed like goobers. This battle was fought between Union General Meade in the Army of the Potomac versus General Lee in the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. There were about 180,000 soldiers fighting, with over 51,000 casualties, making it the single bloodiest battle in the entire war. And to give you perspective on that number, throughout the entire Vietnam War, America lost about 58,000 soldiers.
Gettysburg became a turning point. From that moment, the South was modestly on the defensive. Lincoln seized the victory to give his famous Gettysburg Address, calling for a new birth of freedom for a nation dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. In 1864, Ulysses S. Grant, nicknamed the Butcher, became the Union's commander and adopted a strategy of constant attacks to wear down the Confederacy. He launched the Overland Campaign, sending his armies to relentlessly engage Lee's forces. Grant's approach was simple and ruthless. The Union had more soldiers and resources, so if he just kept attacking the Confederacy, their reserves would eventually run dry. This led to bloody battles, such as the Battle of Wilderness and Spotsylvania. Meanwhile, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman led his famous March to the Sea in 1864. What began in Atlanta turned into a trail of destruction toward the Georgia coast. Sherman's army destroyed railroads, factories, and farmland to fuck over the southern economy and break its morale.
Savannah was the only city that was spared, and that was because it was of little military value and because Sherman wanted to actually give it to Lincoln as a Christmas present.
His scorched earth tactics left the South poor as a church mouse and was a final blow to any hopes of the Confederacy making a comeback. By 1865, the South was completely exhausted. Soldiers deserted, supplies were depleted, and the dream of a separate southern nation quickly faded. After a long and weary chase, Lee's army was surrounded. He was forced to surrender his ass to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9, 1865.
Appomattox Courthouse.
The surrender was modest and generous. Grant allowed Lee's soldiers to return home without punishment, probably because everyone was too exhausted to keep fighting.
And also because this war tore families apart, brother fighting brother, son fighting father. So many of these surrendering troops did have Union family members, which is why in between battles at nighttime, they would meet together in a neutral zone and trade stories, tobacco, and food.
Unfortunately, the war ended with a tragedy.
Oof.
Lincoln was assassinated by John I-Broke-a-Foot Wilkes Booth, a Southern sympathizer which shocked the nation.
What kind of weapon was he assassinated with? I know it wasn't a revolver.
Lincoln's death made the process of Reconstruction even more difficult and showed that the fight for equality and unity was far from over. What important things did we learn from the American Civil War? Getting rid of slavery is a very pricey endeavor. Hundreds of cities were flattened and 620,000 soldiers had to kick the bucket to adopt a more inclusive business model. Christians tried to stop the slavery thing several times before, but it was officially abolished with the 13th Amendment. So, good job there, chaps. It's something countries like Saudi Arabia, India, China, Pakistan, North Korea, Nigeria, Indonesia, and Bangladesh might learn something from, right?
Every country has modern slavery, human trafficking, etc. It's not just those countries.
The Civil War brought the country one step closer towards a better future, though the struggle for civil rights still had a long way to go.
We're marching for the Union, for freedom and the right to kick those Confederates clear out of sight. They claim it's about space, but we know their game. It's all about owning niggers, they should feel the shame. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah.
So obviously this was a very oversimplified take on the American Civil War, but I thought they did an awesome job. If you do want to help the channel out, then please go ahead and smash my like button. And while you're at it, please go to the original video. I will link it down below and give them a like as well. If you do want to see another video by Mitsi Studio, here you go. Thanks for watching.